Good morning.
Good morning.
I call together this special meeting / work session of the Mayor and City Council for Columbus, Thursday, June the 15th, 2023. Before we get started, I'm going to call on Corporal Glenn Jenkins to open us in prayer.
Dear Heavenly Father, you see everyone here in the room together, Father, with their minds open. We ask you, Lord, to send your spirit, send your understanding, send your love, your anointing. Lord, guide this meeting today, Lord, the way you want it to go. Doesn't matter what anybody else says. It's what you want. Lord, we thank you so much for what you've done for our city so far. Most of all, God, surround your presence of our city to protect and secure what needs to be secured and settle those down that need to be settled down. Lord, we thank you so much for everything you've done for us so far and for what's to come, for our blessings and for our families, our bosses, our patrol, our city members, everyone. We love them, Lord, and we ask you to give them the most highest blessing that you can give. Thank you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Corporal Jenkins. Council, we've got a pretty full agenda, so I'm going to try to move us through in a timely pace. But before we get started, are there any comments from the council? If not, the first thing on the agenda is that we need to vote on a resolution for our ARPA and MCWI MDEQ Round 2 application. Jeff, do you want to give us an overview of that? Kevin? Do you have any information on the application that we need to vote on, the resolution?
I know that when we did the first round, the resolution was required, obviously, but we weren't involved with the second round. Be glad to help where we can, but I've offered some information to council and others to help move that forward if we need to.
Yeah, I believe this is just giving the mayor authorization for signature authority on the documents, because it looks like we have been approved. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Jimmy,
Full amount, everything y'all asked for originally. For what y'all originally submitted for, but I haven't seen that submission. So.
What we asked for, Jim?
It's the match for the $3 million for the things that we put in with Wagner to the state. We were approved, and once you're approved, they send information back to the city for the mayor's signature, so the mayor to be able to sign off on the documents to move forward to get the match. We were not receiving those because they were going to Wagner after they put the application in. They recently sent it to us. Do we have a copy of that, guys?
You said it was sent to Wagner,
Yes.
so they have to be are they still a player in here?
No. Not unless you want them to be. This is strictly the match for the work we requested for matching for the watershed and flooding.
Is it something that has to be voted on today?
We need to do it soon. That's why we call
I
it a special.
understand that, but I'm just saying, since nobody really knows, what's going on with
If that's what you're asking
Can
for?
it wait for Tuesday?
Yeah, that was the first one, is something that could wait for Tuesday.
Is this it? This subward agreement?
That's what needs to be signed, that's a portion of it, yes. It doesn't have the amount on here.
Jim, do you have anything on it?
Only that it was an authorization that you had to select a representative from the city as the authorized signer. That's why they asked for the mayor.
We can wait till Tuesday, I'm assuming.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, well, there goes that. Next, we have ad valorem tax. We have Mr. Chris Clavy on, is he online, Joe?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Mr. Clavy.
Good morning.
Mr. Clavy wants to talk to the council about the project that he is working on. It's, will be My Home in Columbus, which was formerly the Columbus Inn, which was at one time the Holiday Inn down across from the bowl, the Magnolia Bowl. They have purchased that and are turning it into an extended stay. And since they've been working on it, they have come to realize that there was a lot more damage to the facility than they had originally thought. And so he wants to come to us today to discuss, and you should have information in front of you, the possibility of a tax abatement. And so with that, Mr. Clavy, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for granting me time for this morning's meeting. For those who haven't met, I'm Chris Clavy. Myself and my partners acquired the Columbus Inn and Suites at the end of last year. What our firm does is we are real estate investors, and we create short-term and permanent housing solutions in the Southeast markets. And what we do is we typically look for older hotels, schoolhouses, buildings that that can be repurposed and create an affordable. And I don't mean affordable in terms of Section 8, but an affordable housing option for residents in a local market. We do it either as an extended stay, where we rent it weekly and monthly. Usually, our customers in that are traveling healthcare. Contractor crews coming into town, which is big in Columbus. And there are, believe it or not, there are working residents that also do choose to use it as a housing solution. The other option is we'll typically buy a building like that and convert it to multifamily housing, studios and one bedrooms. But for purposes of today, Columbus Inn and Suites, we're going to convert it to My Home Studios. Really, we did a lot of diligence on the property as well as Columbus and the opportunities to make sure the investment made sense. We typically make investments for the long term, not one property at a time, but a market. And when you look at the location of the property on US 45, straight from the highway to downtown, spectacular. And then with the plant expansion happening for SDI and over in the Golden Triangle, there are no other, I'm going to say, economy hotels that will have a kitchenette that contractors, out-of-town contractors could use in the area. There are a lot of hotels or discount hotels that they can stay at, but when you talk to the contractors, they all like the idea of having a kitchen. So some of our rooms will be complete with a kitchenette. We'll have a cooktop, full-size refrigerator, microwave, kitchen cabinets. It'll do it just like a studio apartment and give them what they like when they're away from home. Unfortunately, as we took the property over and we started operating and doing construction, even with all the diligence we did, we noticed that the years of disrepair, the damage was far more extensive, and our initial budget between acquiring the property and renovations is about $4 million. So we're putting about $3 million in to renovate, which would include, and the original plan was repair exterior, paint, repair the roof, demo rooms, paint, flooring, repair the lobby, new infrastructure in terms of HVAC, hot water heaters, so on and so forth. So total redo. And so we got into it, I think really the biggest issue that we ran into on costs, which are increasing our budget, and again, we want to do this the right way, is lobby, restaurant, banquet hall that, anybody who's been in Columbus a long time, every time I meet with them, they tell me they had some event there over the years. Well, if you haven't been there in a long time, and I don't know if we have any of the pictures, we cannot repair the roof on that building because there is so much water intrusion that I don't even know what it would cost to repair. So, and again, Joe, would you be able to get any of the pictures?
Yes, sir. Bring them up right now.
Okay.
You want the before pictures?
That was one.
I can't see it, I don't know what's up.
Oh, you want the before pictures, the before for the WIP?
Yeah, that'd be great. Picture's worth 1,000 words. I just wanted everybody to kind of see the state of the property as it is today. Do you think it looks bad from the outside with the inside?
Okay, this was,
The before,
Yeah, I can't see. I don't know what's up on the screen.
before.
this is showing the restroom with the bathtub and everything that was in disarray.
Okay, okay. Is there any pictures of you can see I have some pictures with the cans collecting the water from the roof leaks. Are there any of those?
Yes, sir.
So, as you all know, it rains here. It rains in Mississippi. So, during rainy season, that's how we learned just how bad the roof was. So, we're going to need to demo this building. It's coming down. Sounds simple, but as anybody who's been in construction knows, it's not just knocking a building down. So we had to deal with utilities, tap off gas, water, electric. When the building's gone, we're going to have to rerun electric, water, or gas to the remaining buildings so that the tenants have service. And now that courtyard, which you cannot see from the street, which I should have added a picture of that, is also not looking so beautiful, is going to be visible to US 45. So from our end, we need to beautify the courtyard with landscaping, something that fits into that whole redevelopment and it presents nicely from the street. So it's a significant investment there. We also need to move the lobby, which is in the bar restaurant building, we're converting 2 of the guest rooms into lobby space, which will be brand new, very nice. But we lose 2 guest rooms by having to move the lobby out of the building that we thought it was going to be in, and we're just going to repair. So sometime in the next 60 days, 30 to 60 days, you'll see the restaurant, bar, banquet hall demolished, and we'll begin improving that there.
We're seeing the one now, we're seeing the one on the screen now that has the flooding with the buckets and the garbage cans and everything else.
Yeah, so that was a back closet which had all of our electrical circuits, and the prior owner's idea of repairing it was to put the plastic on the inside so the water, as it came in, rolled down the plastic into a bucket and didn't hit the electric circuit. So we had to obviously disconnect and reroute that electric immediately. Otherwise, it was clearly a fire hazard.
Okay, you're back up now.
Okay. And do you have some of the after pictures, Joe?
Yes, sir.
You can put those up so people get an idea. I think I sent some pictures of where we're at. So we've done this in phases where we're doing two batches of 45 rooms. So the first 45, we've got flooring, painting done. Bathrooms are being worked on. You can see that we started staging some of the furniture in those rooms, along with the kitchens and the cooktops. Again, the prior owner, so my understanding of the electrical code is that a separate circuit is needed for each appliance. The previous owner, while they didn't have an installed cooktop, were running portable cooktops along with a microwave and a refrigerator. And so never upgraded the electrical and ran it that way for years. So now, again, we're putting in a 2-burner cooktop that actually is less voltage than the portable. It's an energy efficient, less energy than the portable one that he was using, but we need to upgrade the electric to meet code, and have a separate circuit for the microwave, the fridge, and the cooktop. And there's no channel running between the rooms, so it is a costly adventure running that electrical. And then probably the biggest issue has been the delay. Every time these issues come up, these are not small issues. So even on the demolition, it's been dealing with plumbers, electricians, gas companies, city ordinance, making sure we're in compliance. And so those are really the major issues.
Yeah, we're looking at the kitchenette area now too, and
Yeah.
then you got the bed frames in place.
Yep.
Painted the room, new flooring.
Yes. So hopefully you think that looks a little better than the before pictures.
Yes, sir.
And we haven't, you can't really see it from the street because the restaurant building there, but we painted the exterior, repaired to the guest room building. She'll be able to see that when the main buildings are torn down. It will have a nicer appeal. It is a much larger project. Again, like I said, even all the diligence we did, a much larger project. We're probably even above our contingency. There's another $300,000 or $400,000 worth of work. So from our end, we are going to, obviously divert money from other projects to get it done, and obviously review our budget and see how we can make this fit in. We want to do the project right, and so we believe when we're done, we're going to have an attractive product for the market. It's going to fit in with the Columbus downtown revitalization, the Burns Bottom, the US 45 corridor. And, anybody I talk to in the marketplace, when we tell them what we're doing, they seem to think that we'll have more of an issue of not having enough rooms than, trying to fill them won't be an issue. So, kind of look at that from the terms of it will drive tax revenue for the city, and most importantly, our residents will be utilizing the downtown businesses. So that's why we've requested a tax abatement, which will certainly, help us, not immediately, but over time, fund the additional renovations that need to be done. So any money that we save on the tax abatement, we can put back and commit to put back in the property.
Now, Mr. Clabby, are you going to be here for the council meeting next Tuesday to ask for an intent resolution on this?
If you'd like me to be there, I can certainly be there.
I think that would probably be a good idea, so that you can answer any more questions that the council might
Sure.
have. I see in your fact sheet that you gave us that you, based upon the facts that you've been talking about, you believe you can achieve 100% occupancy rate, which will generate an additional $100K in tax revenue for the city, which equates to $1 million over 10 years. Is that correct?
Correct. So, again, we're not as aggressive in other markets, but when I spend time with the Golden Triangle folks, and when you do the math on how many contractors are going to be here over a 3 to 5 year term, it's hundreds and thousands of out-of-town contractors, and we've only got 95 rooms to fill. So it shouldn't be too much of an effort from that perspective. And we think they're going to like the product. We've used, again, this is very similar to what we've done in other markets, and the contractor crews, kind of love the setup.
Okay.
But yes, that's how we estimated the tax revenue.
Okay, and for those here that may not be familiar with this is something that the city and county sometimes will vote on for new, when people are coming in, trying to refurbish old properties within the city. If council votes for this, it would give them a 10-year tax abatement that will freeze the value of the property at what it's valued now, and not what it will be valued at once their renovations are complete. This an example of where the city's done this recently was with the Stone Hotel. So, any other comments or questions? for Mr. Clabby. Well, we appreciate your time and your investment
Okay.
in Columbus and sending us this information, and we look forward to seeing you on Tuesday of next week.
Okay, thank you, everyone, I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Now we're going to move in quickly to a bridge update from Jeff Turnage is going to give us an update there.
Good morning. Really, there's not much to say. The contractor has not begun the work yet. However, they have submitted their first draw request, which has been approved by Neil Schaefer, the project manager. That's part of their general conditions of the contract, allows them to get a draw. They've spent about $60,000 in round numbers on supporting steel and concrete. And the rest of what they're asking for in their draw is insurance, engineering surveys, bonds, and that sort of thing. So I think the total on the docket is going to be about $350,000. 322. So, and they hope to start, I think, next week. So that's good news. That's all I really had to report.
Any questions for Jeff?
How long will a project like that take?
6 months. Feel good.
All right, good news.
All right, next on the agenda, we wanted to make the council aware that there is a request coming before you soon. I'm not sure if it'll be ready for the next council meeting, but to consider a leisure and recreation district in the downtown area, very similar to what they have in Starkville and Oxford, in Hattiesburg and other cities around the state with the active downtown areas. We have given you a draft ordinance that Jeff Turnage has put together. There's still some things to be worked out. The Columbus Visitors Bureau, Main Street, Columbus, and several business owners downtown have brought this request, an idea before the city. And so we wanted to give you all a heads up that this would be something that they will be coming before the council on. Jeff, do you have any comments on this?
I think there may be some confusion about whether it includes alcoholic beverage, which is defined as liquor, as opposed to just beer. And this allows an open container of alcohol.
Beer and wine.
Meaning liquor, light wine and beer and wine. So what's necessary is to define the district, which I've circulated some emails around, and I think for sure you'd want to include your downtown central business district and those business establishments that sell food and alcohol downtown. And then you need to set the hours of operation, which I plugged in some numbers. I don't think you want people walking around with an open container at 1:30 in the morning. And so we cut it off in this proposed ordinance at, I think, 11. And so that's up to y'all. You can set it to the normal closing time of an establishment if you want to, but that's 1:30 in the morning. And then if they walk out with their alcoholic beverage, they may be creating noise and disturbance that might bother your downtown residents. So that's why we set it at a shorter period.
Have we gotten any input from Starkville or the other cities, how it's working for them?
It's my understanding that they've worked well. I've talked to the chief about it too. They had one in Natchez, chief, if you can address.
Yes, it works well. I agree with the attorney as far as the cutoff time, because we do have people that reside downtown. And if we give them to that 1 o'clock area, then we're looking at another hour of people gathering and talking and communicating, and it could disturb downtown. The other thing that I would love for the council to take into consideration is a specific cup to make sure that that one particular cup is the only cup that when they leave these businesses, that's the only cup that they can walk around downtown in. That would help the officers be able to identify, because you can't just go to a store down the street and buy something and come walking around through downtown. You have, when you purchase it, it has to be within the downtown area. So we have one particular cup. It could have downtown, whatever you want to put on there, area, that way, and it could be a particular color if the city wants to pick a particular color. That way we know what cups, and when officers will be able to identify as they're driving back and forth, they can see those individuals with those cups, and we'll know.
See if they litter.
That's right. It
Yes.
also shows the littering was done there.
Yes.
Now, at least Starkville has that in place, don't they? Particular,
Yes.
yeah.
And it's in the proposed ordinance on page 3, paragraph 3.
The one thing I think we still need to talk about too would be exactly where the district would lie. One of the questions is, would you include the Burns Bottom area as well, even though that's not fully developed yet? What are your thoughts on that, Jim?
I think it'd be something that might help it develop, so I think you ought to include it. But it can be amended and added later if there's any reservation about having it included before it's developed.
I think it'll give our downtown a little more life, walking around, going back and forth, and give us a little more of a pep to downtown. But with that also, we're gonna have to increase presence, patrol presence
That's
downtown.
right. That has to be in the
Yes,
ordinance too.
and that means that we'll probably have to put 2 officers down here, foot patrol.
I mean, you don't really have enough officers with the control of the city now, so how you gonna do that?
problem.
What-
Now you get to the root of the thing, what I'm looking at.
What's that?
Why are we opening up our city to this? Now, are we looking at the liability that can come behind this? When people get to walking and drinking, things happen. It's different from sitting inside of a club or a bar. When they get to walking out here on these streets, are we prepared for what's going to happen behind that?
Well, we will be prepared. It's gonna take some training, for some of these officers, these younger officers, but at the end of the day, it's gonna give more of a downtown relaxed atmosphere, because people are walking back and forth now. They have a lot of foot traffic downtown. It's gonna increase your foot traffic going back and forth. Honest with you, Councilman, I mean,
Answer me this, Chief. Answer me this. I hear what you're saying, and I see what you're saying. But answer me this. So they gonna feel better walking with a ball in their hand, drinking on the street than they would in the club. That's what you're telling me? They gonna feel better about themselves?
well, I mean, it just gives downtown a different atmosphere. I mean, whether they, because to be honest with you, some of them are doing it now anyway.
Now, if you catch them walking on 7th Avenue with a ball in hand, what you gonna do?
I mean, that's outside of the area.
Okay, but what you gonna do?
There'll be a restaurant.
So we gonna okay it down here and now okay it over here. That's what we gonna be looking at here now.
Yes, sir. We
From the
can't do it
council.
citywide. We just,
So are we being fair to the clubs that got their businesses on 7th Avenue, letting them walk? Are we being fair to them?
well, I mean, that's a decision that the council gonna have to make. I'm just giving a recommendation. I know that other cities, like Natchez and other cities like Starkville and have a downtown area to increase the traffic downtown for people to be, part of downtown. And that's all I can really tell you, Councilman.
So you're talking about including, the Barnes Bottom area, so you'll be down by the soccer complex, so they drinking and then kids playing soccer. I think there's enough parents that probably already fight with the coaches, and then you include alcohol in that, then.
Well, from what the attorney told me, that area is not developed yet. And he wasn't talking about the soccer complex, he was talking about some area, and he told me that, I know where he's talking about, but I forgot the name of it, but it's an area that's not developed, and he was talking about it might help us as far as selling it if it was zoned for that area.
Right, but if the soccer complex is right across from that area, so that would be basically in that same area, wouldn't it?
Well, the boundary, it depends on what the boundaries are set.
Playing a lot of soccer, 11, 12.
It's a
But
time
they do have
restriction.
tournaments at, from, 8 to 9, or 6 to 10, or whatever it may be,
Right. This is Mr. Ryan Munson, a citizen that has a business that would be in this area and has made this request to, if you would like to speak.
Yeah, please. So yeah, I do have the business right by the soccer complex. It's right in that Burns Bottom area. I can say, well, one of the positives, if people are coming to my restaurant, we are engaging whether or not they're intoxicated. And it's on the restaurant's responsibility, if we have a special cup or putting alcohol in it, it's our responsibility to make sure we don't serve intoxicated people. So in a lot of ways, you'll have to have a special cup. You're going to have to go, it's going to give the restaurants a lot more participation in the downtown area. And if you restrict it to the downtown area and make it a leisure district, there's a lot of nonprofits. There's a lot of restaurants and concentrated in this area, so we're trying to promote more activity. So you can have buskers, you can have artists. For example, I'm also president of the Arts Council. We wanted to have an art walk. We partnered up with Main Street. We'd love to do wine and cheese during the art walk. We can't do that right now. So because it would be an open container. You do have a lot of people who want to do maybe a pub crawl for a benefit or fundraisers or different things. That it would just allow a lot of the red tape to go away so we can have more activities downtown. I'm all for cutting it off at 10 p.m. or if you want to cut up at 9 p.m. during the week and do 11 p.m. on the weekends. But I don't see people, they have to have that cup. They're going to have to go to a restaurant to be able to get their alcoholic beverage. Otherwise, they're just going to be sneaking around with 6-packs, 12-packs, which might be happening anyway.
But when they have special events though, don't we allow, I mean, you can come for a permit to do a special event.
You can come to it for a permit. For example, we shut down our road all the time for our Burns Bottom Festival, for other things. But we have to tell everybody you cannot go into that street because you have to stay within the confines of our garden area. Because if they walk around outside that, they can get in trouble for open container.
But we have given special permits when they have stuff like Market Street. Don't they walk around?
At one time a year for each nonprofit, so you couldn't do it more often than once a year.
You know, so if you have something small, like the Arts Council wanted to have somebody playing in front of it, and that allows somebody who wants to watch this, for example, busker, a small town musician, or if you had several throughout the town, they would have to go into the restaurants to buy beer so they could sit out there and watch the busker. You know, it just allows you to do more stuff outside, and this is not a radical move. Like I said, many of the smaller communities are doing it because it just promotes more arts, more innovation downtown. That's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Well, council, you've got this information in front of you, and we can continue to look at it. As I said, the Columbus Visitors Bureau is supportive of it, as is Main Street, so I'm sure you'll probably hear from them as well. Next on the agenda is to discuss the annexation. He's online with us, I believe. Mr. Watkins? Watson, I'm sorry, sir. Mr. Watson?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So do I take it, run with it?
Yes, at this point, if you'd like to give us an overview of we've got before us the letter you sent to Mr. Mickens after you met with he and Councilman Green on April the 25th. Councilman Jones. So they've got that information in front of you, and then the map area 2 that shows the 2 areas that they discussed with you. I think the council would like to hear more about this and what are the possibilities of, and your recommendation on looking at more areas of the city than just these 2.
So, generally, the process is, first comes study to determine reasonableness, as every annexation's got to go to court. When you get to court, you've got to prove this certain set of facts to prove that an annexation is reasonable. So step 1 comes study, and then if assuming that the study is favorable, then if the council moves forward, then you file a lawsuit, you go to court, and you have to put on the proof, and it may or may not be contested, but you have to demonstrate that the annexation is reasonable. Now, with regard to the areas, now there's a map that is associated with my proposal, and I have not. Let me back up. I think my proposal says this, but Councilman Mickens and Jones provided me with this copy of the map in terms of geography that they would like to see annexed to the city. I have not studied the city and territory around the city to make a recommendation as to what the city should or shouldn't be annexing, if anything. Normally the way that works is that if any other council members have territory that you may be interested in annexing, then we need to add it to the study, add it to the geography that we're going to study. What we prefer not to do is undertake a study on one set of geography and then midway or after the study come back and say, well, let's add something to it. It's easier to take away from the study than it is to add to a study. So in that regard, I don't have a particular recommendation for you as to other geographic areas. I would simply look to the desires of the council as to what you all as a council would like to see studied for territory to be brought into the city potentially.
Well, it seems if you're the expert, you would look at the whole area rather than just a specific area. What's going to be make most sense for the city. And we have Public Works now that has a difficult time taking care of what we've got, and we're adding, this looks like quite a bit more. Will all of those factors be considered?
Yes, ma'am. Part of the analysis, among those factors that have to be demonstrated to the court includes the city's ability to deliver services to any area that it annexes. And that includes both the financial ability to deliver those services as well as the logistical ability to deliver those services. Another one of the factors that must be considered is the city's past performance in serving its current residences. So these are things we look at. So if there are, let's say hypothetically, if there are areas of the city that are not being adequately served for some reason, whether it's, the work requirements are overwhelming, or whether there's personnel shortage or lack of funding to meet needs, things of that nature, then we take that into consideration. That gets into the past performance element. What I do when I study an annexation is I look at a variety of components. For instance, the financial component, I calculate what the revenues would be if it were in the city. We go to the assessor's office and we tabulate all of the assessed valuations. If there's a commercial base out there, we go to the Department of Revenue and we ask them for sales tax estimates. From the standpoint of service needs, I would sit down and interview each of your department heads. And whatever the geography is that we're studying, I will ask the police chief, Chief, what are you going to need to serve this area? And I'm going to tell the chief how many people are there, how many houses, how many miles of streets to patrol, and that type of thing. And I'm going to rely on your department heads to tell me what they need to serve the area. And I'm also going to rely on your department heads to tell me whether or not they're struggling to serve anything that's inside the current city limits. So all of that type of information does get considered in the study process. And if it's not favorable, I hope this is not the case, but if things don't look good for Columbus, then I'm going to come back and tell you, hey, you guys aren't ready to annex.
And is it common practice that just one or two council members request your service, or do they come to you as a whole?
Annexations can come about in different ways, and quite frankly, I am seldom involved in behind-the-scenes politics that might be related to determining annexation areas. I'm not going to say that it's never happened, because
I can speak on it though. I can speak on it.
Ultimately, what's got to happen is that you all as a council, if y'all wish to proceed with an annexation study, then you all as a council need to be somewhat satisfied with the geography that we're studying. And if there are other areas that you would like to see studied, then we need to know that. And we also need to know that from a cost estimate standpoint, because the cost estimates that I've provided for you are based on the limited geography that set forth in the maps that I've provided.
As a council, any mayor can speak, or the mayor, anybody can call, but we all have to vote on it and pass it. Just because I call and talk to him doesn't mean that I'm giving him authorization to do anything. Same thing with you. I mean, you can call Jimbo if you want to present anything to us, and it's up to the council to vote on it. So, no, that's not a problem.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Watson, thank you. We'll be in touch.
All right, thank y'all for having me.
No, we
good day.
Thank you, sir. All right.
To answer that question that Mr. Seco seemed to be concerned with, and that goes for any councilman up here, you got Mr. Watson right there. Now, if you got an area that you want to see put into this study, then I think it's time for you to talk to Mr. Watson and let him know, because this is going forward. I mean, it's just up to y'all what you want, you tell him, but it's still gonna come down to the council. And Mr. Watson gonna do what the council say. So if you got something you wanna add in, you tell him now.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. I'm sure that you'll probably be getting some other areas to consider as well. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you all. Goodbye.
All right, now we will be moving to, I'm sorry? Yes.
Good morning. My name is Richard Urrutia, and I'm CEO of Aero Disposal Service, and I'm here today with Jimmy Moore. He's our marketing representative for Mississippi out of Meridian. I want to thank you first for the opportunity to participate in this process. I'm here today to answer any questions. There were 2 different bid revisions. We submitted our last one using primarily ASL service, and I'm doing this 30 years. I'll be glad to answer any questions. We operate throughout the state of Mississippi and Alabama in both cities and counties. So that's pretty much, I was just here. I didn't know if this would be a Q&A session for you, if you had any questions, or what the next step process would be you might require of us.
Well, and I think, Mr. Moore, did you not want to address some of the issues that were talked about at the council meeting?
Well, 2 primary issues that I took away from the last council meeting. One was some sentiment that you could not serve certain areas of the city with ASL trucks. That was one thing. The second thing was the number of employees currently employed on existing collection vehicles to pick garbage up that would lose their jobs. That's a fact. ASL is a one-man crew. Those were the 2 things that seemed to be at that meeting, 2 million. I may be wrong, but that seemed to be the 2 things that had the most concern for a change to ASL. So that was, and I may be wrong if there are other things. Certainly, Mr. Urrutia can address them, but.
I think one of the things, Councilman Jones, was the downtown pickup. Wasn't there some concerns there about the trash cans?
A concern because a lot of people park on the street.
Well, and I'm not sure exactly what time the start time is for this, but we have a blended fleet. So when we say ASL, our primary method of service is ASL, which stands for Automated Side Loader Pickup. And let me back up. Nobody likes to displace anybody out of a job, especially me. We employ currently over 300 people in the 2 states. In the last 2 years, I'm sure everybody has experienced some sort of labor issue. It's been a struggle for us to find people that will work or want to go to work. So in order to provide the same level of service, we've always run a blended fleet of automated side loader trucks and rear loader trucks. And the councilman's address for the downtown service, we have downtown areas where we service with, it's called a Parcan. It's like a small pickup truck with a tipper on it that services hard to get to areas. We also have a small 8-yard rear load pickup truck that's a one-man operation that services the hard to get to locations too. So we identify those, isolate those, and address those. One other thing is you'll have a less number of large trucks on your street every week, which makes a difference on the wear and tear on your roads.
Mr. Lee?
Yes, sir.
Could you, I believe that your company just started service for Albertville, Alabama.
We did.
Could you tell us how that went? Because I know that was a big transition, and June 1st, I believe.
It was, and it's gone smoothly, knock on wood, and we're using ASLs there. The way it works is we receive a customer list either from the previous contractor or the city, and we distribute our carts. And I'm a huge proponent of using carts because the state of Mississippi has a large number of contracts that are called just bag pickup, and we have some. 2 of the largest ones we had were Lincoln County, roughly 10,000 homes, and Scott County, about 8,000 homes, that after we started, they converted to cart service. It keeps the county cleaner and stuff. But we start by getting the route list, distributing the carts, hiring the crews, training the drivers, and then from the first 30 days of a job, we usually have corporate representatives on site to help make sure things go smoothly. There's always everything privy to the current contractor that we don't know. There's going to be those certain places that are hard to get to that we have to find out where they are to address. There's going to be certain cul-de-sacs that go certain ways. We have to, get our routing. It's not perfect from day one. And like anybody out there, we depend on two things. We depend on people and trucks. And one day, one of them's not going to crank. I mean, we always have backup service to do that. We provide service to the south of you, to the north of you. We have enough area equipment here to back ourselves up, but we plan for that going in too. But to answer your question, we start out by delivering the cars, learning the routes, training the people, and then on day one we have extra people there sitting waiting to see what happens.
What about when they have cardboard boxes that won't fit in
the box?
In the container?
Well,
we don't do recycling, so,
Well, recycling has kind of gone by the wayside to a large extent, but we have to break them down. Now, I'm not sure what that specific language addresses that in your contract. I'll have to look, but if it need to be, we'll break them down and put them in the car and pitch them. The garbage is mine. I mean, I've got to get it. I mean, at the end of the day, if you put it in there, this carts of content only is the goal, but also, been doing this for 30 years, there's a period of time between Thanksgiving and New Year's where people have excess garbage, and it's not enough to require or necessitate a second can. So we get it. We're in the service business. But we also provide Lytx cameras for service verification on our trucks. We film our drivers and we film the stops. So if you repeatedly, week in, week out, have bags, we're going to recommend to somebody that you get a second cart because it's not designed for that purpose. I don't know how they address second carts at this time, but a second cart, I think we quoted you $9.97 for a second cart, and
your trucks only pick up the trash cans that you give, right? What about other trash cans that people already have? It won't.
Our goal, if we're awarded the contract, is to provide every resident with a cart that they're to use per the contract.
Right.
Now,
I
if they have
understand that, but if they already have a cart, like most people, a lot of people do. So if they want to still use that cart with that cart, how would that affect your truck?
Well, the truck's designed to pick up
just that trash can.
Our can. I don't know what the size of theirs would be because believe me, if my man can sit there and do a toggle switch and pick it up, he'll do that rather than get out and go pick it up. It's much more efficient that way. So if it's serviceable, he will. They will.
We don't have recycling on the street for boxes, but the city is paying quite a bit of money to have the recycling bins around the city that we hope people would use. Yeah.
Are they using them?
Some, and some people are using them improperly.
Everything else too.
Right.
Well, speaking of that, I think we need to change one of the locations because I don't think that kids that cook should see a whole bunch of trash every time they come into the school. So we might need to look at another location there.
I think so too.
Any other questions?
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you for the
here.
opportunity.
Hey, Justin, may I ask one question?
Sure.
Please. Does the council know when they might make a decision on the award of a contract?
Soon. I would say we'll probably bring it up that the council is willing to at the next meeting on Tuesday.
Thank you.
Which I think we really have to determine whether we're going to stay with 1 day or 2 days. That's going to be the next thing, or the first thing that we should determine. Because I've had a lot of people that really want to stay with 2 days instead of 1.
Mayor, can I comment on one thing?
Sure.
I know that on the agenda.
That's okay.
I know the council and the mayor are tired of seeing me. Seen me on a couple occasions. I just want to add something that I want to be clear, and I've emphasized from the beginning of this. I'm sure Arrow provides a great product. I'm not disputing that. I think we provide a great product. I think what the city's ultimately going to make a decision of is what is the best product for the city. Okay? I think what's undisputed at this point is this, a few things. Number one, the city basically requested 4 separate bids in the sense of twice a week with a container, twice a week without a container, and then 1 and 1 with a container, not a container. 3 of those 4 bids, we outbid everybody. I mean, you've got the bid, we outbid everybody. And what I emphasized from the beginning of this, and what I've tried to emphasize, is that we're cooperative. We're not in the business of making money. We were created for this very reason. So we can provide 5 trucks versus 3 trucks that somebody else may provide. that we can provide 3 people on a vehicle versus 1 person in a vehicle, that it helps to economically and efficiently pick up garbage. We're not in the business of making money. We never have been. And that's the advantage of why we were created for the Golden Triangle and why we think we benefit the city. So I don't want to speak for Arrow. They may want to rebut this. My understanding is they've dedicated effectively 3 trucks to the city. They may morph that some. I don't know how that's going to affect how they can do it economically, but we've always dedicated 5 trucks to the city. 15 employees, basically 2 hoppers on each truck, a driver. I'm not going to get in the business of trying to convince y'all to make a decision about bins versus not having bins. I think from a legal standpoint, it's going to get complicated after a while when you have people calling you all the time. They're like, why did my garbage get picked up? And you said, well, you put a bag on top of the can. They don't pick it up because it's in the can. We don't pick it up because we're directed not to because that's not what the contract says. So I think a decision seriously needs to be made about whether to continue without cans versus cans. I mean, we're prepared. We've bid cans. We know how much it's going to cost to put them out. We know how many cans you need. We're ready to roll on that side of it. My position is, been doing this for 10 years and being with them for 10 years, you really need to look at both options really hard. I know you're committed to the can idea. I'm just telling you, you are opening up a can of worms that you're not ready for. I'm just telling you. You think you got calls when our 8 trucks were down? You wait till the first time somebody puts up something next to a can and y'all don't pick it up. Or we don't pick it up or they don't pick it up. It's going to be every day for 6 months, or 8 months, 9 months. I'm just telling you, it's coming. Just like, how many calls did y'all get when our 7 trucks were down?
So you're saying y'all wouldn't pick up if
No, what I'm saying is y'all's directive is we have these cans and this is what we're supposed to pick up. We're not saying we won't, but the discussion that's being had right now is if it's not in our can, I'll use this as an example for you. I got 2 cans at my office, in my house that I have right now. 2 nice cans. Well, Christmas rolls around, you give me your city can. Guess what? I filled up 2 cans. So I'm going to put my city can out there and then I'm going to put my big private can out there. Well, what have we been directed as vendors to do? Pick up the cans that we have sold to y'all to put out. And they're picking up based on their machinery. So then you're going to get a call, hey, you didn't pick up that can. So the council's going to make the decision they want to make, and they're going to do what's best for the city. I'm not saying cans are a bad thing. I'm just saying collectively, if you look at everything from A to Z, the first thing you look at is you've got 4 bids, 3 of those bids, we're the lowest option. We bring more trucks, more people. I don't think that there's any question about that.
Aren't y'all doing bins in the county?
No, not in Lowndes, no sir. We do bids. What happened with Tibahaw and Webster, what happened is when the cooperative was created as part of the agreement, when they came into the cooperative, that was the agreement that we had to continue to provide cans. And when you say provide cans, it's slanted. You're paying for the cans. We have to basically provide them. Put them out.
And we had that discussion when we were first talking about bins, and you said that the supervisors deliver the cans?
In those counties. If a can goes down, generally what happens is they'll call their supervisor, like Supervisor Rico in Webster County gets called, hey, I need a can. They deliver the can to them. That's how it's always been. And one of the issues in Tibahaw that we always had, the problem that we had was, and y'all don't care about this, was that people were picking up other counties' cans and taking those cans out to Webster County that were supposed to be in Tibahaw County.
So the places that y'all are doing cans now, do y'all still have people trying to use other cans or putting their trash next to them?
It's in their contract that we still have to pick up everything. So with the way your RFP is worded, if it's not in that can, it's not picked up.
So, but y'all are picking them up there because it's in their contract?
Yes,
Our intent is to pick it up regardless. I can't speak to the other people that have bid. I can't speak to Arrow or anybody else that's bid for you. Our position is you put it out, we're picking it up. I mean, that's how it's always been. That's why we have 2 hoppers. That's why when they pull up in front of my office here on 7th Street North, they got 2 hoppers that get off that truck and pick up my garbage.
Yeah.
And so we just think, all we're asking is, if you look at the value of the bids that we bid on all 4 different options and what we provide, there's only one bid that's even in question. And I'm going to let Errol speak to this. I don't know anything about garbage. This gentleman sounds very knowledgeable about garbage. I don't know anything about it. I don't know how you can pick up the city of Columbus with 3 trucks. We dedicate 5 trucks, and they're big trucks. So I don't know how you can do that. I don't know how you can do it and have 1/3 of the number of employees we have and pick it up timely. And again, I don't know anything about garbage. I'm just doing math. I mean, and so we think that we provide a great option. We've been picking up forever. And I've told you at the last meeting, the money we've dedicated, almost $4 million into trucks, the current ones and the new bid that we've already put out. You know,
We have 6 more trucks that'll be here probably in January.
I mean, we take it serious. We got the bid ready to go to pick up for the cans, $60,000 to put the cans out for y'all.
I have a question.
Yep.
Should Columbus have a seat on the cooperative board if you're approved?
Well, that's more complicated because you're not part of the cooperative. The counties are the cooperative is created by the county. You're basically a client like UPOR is. So you would have to come in and the counties fund the cooperative. Webster, Octavia, and Lowndes created the cooperative. They fund the cooperative, and obviously they bill the counties back to pay for the cooperative. The whole purpose of the cooperative is there's no shareholders to pay. There's no fancy CEO to pay. We just put the money in the cooperative, buy the truck, pick up the garbage.
And I'm pretty sure the statute says who's gonna be on the board of directors.
Correct. But the cooperative is the 3 counties. And so.
And we're your largest client?
Oh, yeah. As far as dedicated truck-wise, I don't think there's any question.
Even bigger
As far
than
as truck-wise, yes.
You're our biggest client. And that's why, and look, I'm not going to rehash this. I'm going to finish with this. That's why every time you've called on us, we're like, what do you want us to do? What do you want us to do? I mean, we've tried to fix everything that we can fix, and we've spent tons of money. I mean, we rented trucks and paid, what, a month for them? I mean, to rent a truck, not even to keep it. To rent it so we can pick up your garbage when our other trucks were down. I mean, we're not in the business of making money. We're in the business of taking care of the people that we live with. I mean, and that's all I've got to add, and thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I've got to have.
Okay, sure.
I get my 2 minutes. I agree on 2 things. He's right. I do know a lot about this, and he also said he didn't know much about garbage. Of the 4 bids he requested, they were low on 3. But let me point out that their price to you for the same service with no card was 2 pennies less than my service to you with a card. Now, I will get into the math briefly. South Haven, Mississippi, we had for 6 years. 20,000 homes a week we serviced. 4 trucks. 4 trucks. It's all in your approach. And we're very sensitive to the people out there too. If you call Alan Latimer, the sitting mayor of Horn Lake, we'll be awarded that one again. When we had that, the city did it themselves. 6,000 homes. They had 5 trucks, 2 hoppers, and a driver. We replaced with 3 trucks and 6 people. Now again, it's about efficiency. Now I make no bones about it. We are for-profit. They are not. If they are a quasi-governmental authority and they could have negotiated this with you, then we could have all saved ourselves a whole bunch of time, certainly. And to order trucks for a contract when you don't have it yet is not something the private sector or somebody in business would do. So I make no business or no excuses on why they order their trucks. They said coming for the new contract. If we don't have the contract, like these trucks we're discussing today, we haven't ordered until we know that we have the contract. So, I mean, and I'll leave it at that. We've probably talked trash too long this morning for this.
Well, I do want you to figure out one more thing. Just coming up. You have your bins, you have the contract, somebody has a bag sitting beside their bin. Your one guy out of your truck
picks it up.
Is gonna get out of his truck and go pick up that one bag.
That's correct.
That's how it's written. We've written it correctly, and that's how y'all understand.
That's correct. Now, if you have 9,600, I believe, residents, if we have 9,600 carts and we have 9,600 bags beside it, we'll have to get out and get it. But if you put a number of bags, and when I was explaining to you earlier, if it's excessive, okay, we know that's an excessive period during what we call the holiday season, from Thanksgiving to New Year's, when people have the most guests. That's what I'm talking about. We make the exception to get all the additional stuff that's out there. But I mean, if you have a bag out there every single week, and if they put it on top of the cart, whatever, we're not that picky, okay? Because we have to get it. The last thing I want to do is pass that and offend you and have your phone ring and then my phone ring. Again, we do this for 250,000 homes a week, week in, week out in Alabama, Mississippi. That's where we're up about 250, 260. You know, and yeah, you're not going to please everybody. I'm not going to tell you our phone never rings, but that's 250,000 people a week that we service in the state of Alabama and Mississippi. Cart service, except for those in Mississippi that still have these bag pickup. And now the bag pickup, think about that now. This is why I'm pushing carts. Labor's hard enough to get as it is already, but we all grow up in the South. I'm from Dothan, Alabama. Thunderstorms blow up, the humidity kicks up, it's 110 degrees with the humidity. And you got a young man out there picking up garbage, or a lady, picking up garbage, and if you pick up 5,000 tons a day, he manhandles 5,000 tons a day, that young person does, whether it's their employee or mine. And that gets into your back issues, your work comp issues, which affects your price, which affects your performance. So that's why I'm a proponent of cards. So, and you're going to get those people, because yeah, you're going to have, I'm one of 6 kids, we always had an extra bag. So anyway, to answer your question, yes. Any other questions?
Any other comments or questions? Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, both groups, for being here. Did y'all have something else? You look like you're trying to say something.
My general manager wants to tell you something, sir, but you didn't stay.
I just got one thing to say in reference to the 6 new trucks that we ordered. We didn't order them for the city. We ordered them to replace 6 old trucks. So that's why they're on order. So they will be here hopefully in January. They're going in production in September. That'll give us 16 brand new trucks.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments? All right, thank you. We're going to move forward to the paving discussion. Mr. Kevin?
I guess while we're using funds, I guess I'm here today to hopefully pave the way forward in paving in the city, right? No, I know I've had some discussion. Mayor and I rode for a couple hours on Friday. I was here last time and mentioned to y'all there's several decisions that need to be made on moving forward for paving. And so while the lists are nowhere near final, and we haven't ridden with any council person yet, I know talking with Jamie and the mayor, I know there's been some discussion on whether to use funds in hand, which y'all have the Modernization Act money, which is new to the table than we've done in the past, versus floating the bond. Yeah, I know right now the list is around, we use round numbers, $10 million. But there's things on that list that could wait. If y'all wanted to pay as you go, if you will, and use funds in hand, I understand that there's somewhere between $5 to $6 million that's in hand. The other thing is timing. We talked about how much time, when's a good time. My experience is if you cut a contractor loose anytime in the fall, they're not really going to get a whole lot done before the cold weather sets in. They can't pave unless it's 50 and rising. And so I really think where we sit right now, you're a good 2 to 3 months out before you can even get a contractor on board, much less putting together the final plan. So I think you're going to be in that time frame of cold weather to cut somebody loose. So I think you have time to make these decisions. And so that my recommendation would be to spend the rest of this year getting your plans where they need to be. Met with Light and Water earlier this week. They're interested in obviously seeing what the streets are because they too have some impact on what we do and don't pave. And so with that said, I do want to ride with all of you like as we've done in the past and get your opinion on the streets you want to see on the list, the streets that are on the list now for that matter. Keep in mind, this list is a combination of deferred things that we've seen, things that we know need to be on the list, and things that y'all have asked to be on the list, whether they need to be paved or not. And not everything on the list necessarily is just straight paving. Some things are drainage issues, a patch here and there that needs to be done, not just an overlay. So, so with that said, I'm gonna pause and just kind of say that if there's any questions I can answer on where we are or that next step. But I think the biggest thing is next is to kind of draw that line of funding, what y'all's preference is, because we can't make decisions in each of your wards until we know how much money is going to be spent either per ward or for the entire city bulk. And then of course how that's prioritized. In the past we've done priority by ward with an exact amount of money for paving only. We've done street lighting, we've done drainage in the past, which these monies can be used for. So again, I just say all that to say if I can answer questions, but the next step would, in my opinion, would be to set a funding amount so that then we can respectfully start cutting your list down or adding to your list to spend the funds you would have.
Mr. Stafford, since you're saying that probably gonna take the rest of the year with the weather, with getting somebody here, so it's gonna be up into next year. So what we got coming in next year that can...
And Jim, I'll defer to Jim. When it was originally set up, the state estimated that the city of Columbus would receive about $1 million a year based on internet sales. It's actually been more than that. And Jim, do you know what you are receiving now, roughly?
Yeah, we will receive 2 payments a year, one in January and one in the end of July, early August. Each one of those will be about $1.1 million.
Okay, if we don't do nothing up until next year in July, how much more would that put on the paving list for the mayor and council? The city?
So we have 4.8 million in that account with the July money coming in. So that would be almost $6 million if, by end of next July. However, we really need to make sure that we continue to comply with the state of Mississippi's requirements on spending the money, so.
And y'all have also allocated roughly 400,000 toward the Fifth Street project as a match for that
Right.
grant.
And I'm really looking at that to be covered by the 2020 residual that we have sitting
Okay.
out there, the
Gotcha.
2020 bond
Bond,
residual,
yeah.
which is about 459,000.
Okay.
So I just kind of set that aside because I know we have to match for MDOT.
All right, good. So 5.9 is the money in hand. And so going back to the timing, I didn't kind of finish that thought. If y'all finished your lists by the end of this year, we would have it ready to advertise in January, bid in February, contractor cut loose, notice of award, and to proceed in March, which is perfect timing. And they'll have all next summer to put it down at the right time of year, if you will, so.
Yeah, and I would encourage the council, I did go ask Kevin to take me around the city to look at the list. We saw some streets while we were out that probably should be on the list that were not. We had discussions about how the different ways the city has done this in the past, where y'all at one time allowed the city engineer's office to determine which roads were going to be. Then we moved away from that, and the council would determine about, whether you got equal amounts in each ward or whether it would be what was most needed in the city. There was also one year when they had a 7th ward, which I kind of like the idea of that, where the mayor has some say-so over where some of the money is used. I think we've got some parking lots and things we need to look closely at. But what I'm encouraging everybody to do, and I like the idea, like in Mr. Mickens' ward, where he doesn't have as many streets, but he does have some water issues. He has some flooding and stuff issues in that area that could be used. So I think all that has to be taken in as we're making these decisions, because it's critical, I think. So I would encourage y'all to go out with him as soon as you can. I know y'all been studying it and know your wards well, but you may see some things that you hadn't noticed before. So thank you, Kevin.
Kevin, it's not the additional about 20 streets that I gave you. That's not on this list that you gave us, right?
And some of the streets the mayor and I saw were actually on our list, weren't on the things that were printed out. They're very small sections, but I went back to my guys when I got back to the office and pulled them, and I said, why weren't these on there? They said, oh, they were on there, they just didn't make it. So it's an Excel thing. So I said, stop, go back. And so they're going back through and making sure it won't change the numbers a whole lot in your wards, but just know that there were a few that did slip through. And so going back to, I told the mayor, this is about what I would call a 30% list. So again, we haven't gotten with any of y'all, we haven't gotten with Light and Water, but until we know the amount, we don't want to spend a lot of time engineering streets that are never even going to be considered. So.
Right, yeah. Yeah, he said you added some, Councilman Jeffries.
But those have been handed over. So again, what we do is when y'all hand us your list, we go to our inspectors and our interns, and they go out and start measuring streets, and we put together a rough number of what it would cost to mill and or overlay. And what will happen is, as y'all set the final number and per each ward, and we start drawing that line on the number, we'll get together and figure out what's on and off the list. And then we have to actually go back and do the engineering, which will be a combination of picking up the manholes and all the water valves that have to be done, looking at are there sidewalk improvements that have to be done. Right now, we've just put a percentage placeholder from our experience of what that cost normally runs when the city goes through this, so that the money's right, but the details aren't to the plan yet at all because the streets haven't been picked. So there's a lot of engineering that has to be done to get it ready to go, but until we know that amount, can we do that?
Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
Appreciate it. Council, before we do this last quick thing on the budget, I want to go back, because I was concerned about the resolution that we should have been prepared for today. I went back and found the email, and I don't see where it says we're under I don't know that we'll miss a deadline if we wait till Tuesday. But what this is it's application 623, which is under review, which is what we sent to them for matching money. And what they said they need is a board resolution, and I think this is something you were supposed to do in the originally, I'm not sure, that states that the mayor is the authorized representative of the project, signed by the mayor. And in addition, would provide an update of the MCWI certification. I think this is standard procedure that all the cities had to do, but
Yes, the reason we were asking is because most cities have already received their match, and so to not hold it any further, just to go ahead and get it in as soon as possible. I don't know if you were asking for the street names that the project was. If so, that's 15th Street and also the Brickyard area. Or if you're asking for the cost, how much the match was, that's something we can give from Wagner. But also the projects aren't done, so those prices will probably, not set in stone. So.
Well, that's my understanding, when they submitted those projects, wasn't finished on.
No.
It was
No.
just something.
Right.
Just, yeah.
Yeah.
So, we really, we can wait till Tuesday, but if we could today, like I said, they would go ahead and get
Well,
started.
there's Joe, if we need to vote.
We still got 4.
Oh.
And Pierre's on Zoom.
Pierce. Councilman Beard, can you hear us?
But you said it's not a problem if we wait till Tuesday.
It's not a problem if you wait till Tuesday.
Okay. All right. All right, Mr. Jim, real quick on a budget.
Well, it's that time again. So we'll start the budget for 2024. We have some new software that we'll be using. Each one of the council members were put on the software yesterday, so you'll be receiving an email which will tell you how to sign in and put a password in there. You will be able to monitor the budget process as we go through it. And the other thing that I wanted to get some clarification on, and this is kind of recommended by the state auditor's office, is that we get some kind of parameter guidance on the 2024 budget from the city council. So I wanted you to start thinking about that, and that means, are we going to give pay increases or not? Are there any large construction projects that we need to be planning for that we need to put into there? Any other other special type of situations that you want to talk about in the budget process? The ultimate product of this new software will be a city book. And that city book will have the budget in it. It'll have a highlight by department. It'll show graphics of how the money is being spent by department and as the city as a whole. And all of that is considered part of the transparency of this product. And that is that our citizens will be able to go out and look at it online, where in the past they've been able to look at a budget number. But they'll actually be able to get some narrative about each department. They'll get some narrative about the city itself, but then also be able to break down, typically kind of the graphs that I showed at the hearings last year. But those graphs will be available to anyone whenever they want to go, because it'll be on our website, and they'll be able to go in there and take a look at that. And if they have questions about it.
Software.
Right.
That's what I was about to ask you that too.
Yeah.
I emailed on it yesterday, but I didn't respond because I knew I didn't set up anything, so.
And there'll be.
It's ClearGov if you'll get an email.
And there will be training.
That was smart.
So, I certainly don't assume that everybody knows how to use it. There will be training. There'll be training for both the department heads and the council members. You're certainly welcome to come and visit one-on-one with me, or we'll do it as a group if that needs be. But for your role in this, I want you to be able to go in, you'll be able to click on it, you'll be able to look at the operating budgets by departments, you'll be able to look at it and say, okay, this is where. So far, we've made some pretty good progress. We've taken the 23 budget, rolled it over as the 24 budget, and now each department head will go back in and be able to tweak it based on where we expect to be at the end of 2020, fiscal year 2023. So what did we miss in our budget that needs to be better adjusted? Where are there additional funds that may be needed? And I've already done a projection on the revenue out there. You're certainly welcome to go out there and take a look at any of that. But if you have particular questions, you're welcome to A, come in and see me, or B, we'll do some training. There'll be some online training available. And there's also, once you sign into the software, there's ClearGov Academy, and they train on any of it. So there's really 3 modules: the personnel module, the capital expenditures, and then the operating budget. And you're able to click on any one of those and get, if you're used to online learning, that's pretty much what this is. But don't feel like that's an obligation, because if you're not comfortable with it, you're welcome to come in and sit with me, and I'll show you how it works on and what you can do on the system.
And what he's saying is key, counsel, in that, key capital projects that we feel like we're gonna need to be budgeting in for things, if there's major equipment or things in the different departments. And then also, if we're gonna be looking at cost of living or merit raises, if we're looking at trying to continue to do raises like we did last year, because it had been quite some time since the the employees have had those, we need to be thinking now about what our plan is on that and what we can do financially from that. So we have talked about, and I still would like to see us do it, is establish a committee that works in the budgeting process. So y'all be thinking about that too as well, and we'll discuss that probably again soon about establishing a budget committee. A lot of municipalities do that, so we should consider that as well. I think that's all we have on the agenda. Do y'all have any questions for Jim on the budget?
I just want to make sure that everyone understands, so for example, Councilwoman Stewart has talked to me about a project she would like to have done in her ward. I think what we want to do is gather those, what we can afford to do, we'll all make decisions on, but I want to gather that information so that
early on in the process.
Early on in the process, because we can, the good news is that it looks like the revenue stream will be higher next year, and also at the same time, based on what I've rolled over, we're still at a positive base, meaning we have more revenue than we have expenditures budgeted right now. But that'll change as we go through this process. But obviously, we have to have at least a balanced budget. And so I just want, the input though is key, is that if we're going to do increases, we need to have some parameters on that, so that, because otherwise last year we probably went through that exercise 4 or 5 times, changing people's pay increases, because of the decisions that were being made and how they were being made. If there's some consensus across the board about what we can do, this software will make it easier, but none of this is easy. And of course, the deadline is September 15th. And then we back up from September 15th to the hearings and where we have to do advertising in the paper for the budget and the mill rate. And the other thing I need to be considering is, are we prepared to increase the mill rate? We have some challenges for in 2024, unless our retirement system changes their mind or something. We have probably about a $500,000 hit with the increase in the required contribution for the PERS plan. So we have to be looking at that. Just $500,000 by itself, if there was nothing else, that's over $2 million. And then I have to take a look at our debt structure, making sure, so for example, the bond that we're talking about doing right now is paid by the lounge and restaurant tax, so we don't worry about that. But if we were to do any more debt, we have to take a look at, do we have to cover it with an increase in the mill rate for for the debt to be set up and to be paid for. So, and this year is my goal, because we got kind of caught by surprise last year, as you know. My goal is to coordinate a little better with the school district, so that we can make sure that as a whole, our citizens are getting as economical a deal as we can on the mill rate. But last year with the school adding 3.5, almost 4 mil, something like that, there really wasn't any room for the city to increase our mill rate. This year we have some needs that are going to require that we do that, so you just need to be looking at that and understanding, what's your perspective on that. Now, the valuation of the city has gone up. I think that I saw something from Raymond James that the valuation of the city, and I assume they got this from Greg Andrews, is over 200 million now. It was 199 last year, and we used 195 million, so 1 mil was $195,000. So this year, I'm assuming that 1 mil should be right around $200,000. So as we look at a $200,000 increase in cost, If it doesn't come from anything place else, it'll end up being, have to be accounted for through the mill rate. So just so you understand all of that, and whatever your input is, I welcome it. If you come in, see me one-on-one or whatever, you know, I will be able to kind of explain to you where we are looking at for projections. But I think this new software will let you, whenever you're curious, to sign in and look at it and kind of see where we're at in the process and contribute however way you want to contribute.
Yeah, and there are dates that we are required to hit
Yes.
at different processes of the budget that we'll share with y'all too, so that we'll know that we're staying on task with that. All right, thank you, Jim. I want to remind everybody that our next council meeting is this Tuesday, June the 20th at 5 p.m. at the Municipality Complex. Our first council meeting in July will be Wednesday, July the 5th, because the 4th of July falls on a Tuesday, so we'll meet the following day. Our next work session will be July the 11th.
13th.
Yeah, and then the city hall will be closed Monday the 19th, and for the Juneteenth holiday. Everybody, employees will return to work on June the 20th of 2023. All right.
I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have an update on how the 21 audit is going?
21 audit is, got off to a roaring start last week. I have a list of the remaining items. It's a very short list. So yeah, I think it's gone really well of this. The auditors pretty much filled up this room with people last week looking at things. And they brought in some special people to look at some of the grant problems that we've had in the past and stuff too. So yeah, I think that we're probably half, maybe a little less than half, but about halfway through the process right now. And you know, you're going to have findings because it was 2021, 20 and 2021, and some of those things just didn't get fixed in that time frame. In fact, there was a gap where there wasn't really anything other than people coming in helping on the finance side. But I think that we'll get this finished and then be ready to roll, hopefully very quickly, although we need a letter of engagement, or we need to talk, city council has to consider if they want to bid it or whatever they want to do. But fiscal year 2022 will be ready for audit very soon also. So, but we're making good progress.
Thank you.
Anything else? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you.